What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. So over the weekend, we had a last chance qualifiers, and we're going to be looking at this Singapore one, even though they had Singapore and Germany this past weekend. And we have the North American one this weekend that's happening in Texas. Good luck to everyone that's going to be going out there, by the way. And let's go ahead and get into these top deck lists. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first deck. So we have first place June Boys Forestcraft deck. Shout out to June's Boys for getting first place with Forestcraft. In the last regional, we did have Forestcraft take first place, but with this new Uma meta, I'm happy to see Forestcraft doing well. All right, Rune players, you need to step up your game. I want you guys to top. I'll try my best to go to an event and see if I can top, but I can only do so much. But shout out to June's Boy to doing very well with Forestcraft. I'm happy to see that all these decks can do very well, especially with Swordcraft being as strong as it is, and Dragoncraft being as strong as it is. Forestcraft can still take the crown and sweep face. I like that. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we have just by looking at it, we have the typical the Elf Child May playset with the Nature Guidance and the Harvest Festival, but I'm looking at it, and with the new cards, we have the Sheikah Windy. It's the one drop that looks at the top card of your deck, and you can choose to keep it there or put it at the bottom of your deck. And that's pretty good because the one drop that kind of starts your fueling in case you miss the Harvest Festival, and maybe you have Nature's Guidance in your hand, so you can play this one drop, swing with it, bounce it back to your hand, and then get all those effects that you need to do, and that's pretty good. So with the balancing cards, we have the Nature's Guidance, the Ancient Elf. And then we have Marvelous Sunday, which is one of the new cards that came out in the Uma set. You return another card from your field to its owner's hand, and you gain two health. That's pretty good in terms of doing that with Harvest Festival, gaining 2 health, and then drawing a card. That's actually pretty good. And so, judging by how it's built, it's leaning towards the combo line with the Crystalia Tia. And then I'm glad someone is actually running this card, Gold City, because it's just too good not to put in your deck. So I'm telling you, this card is just so good. You play it for 4, and then you recover 3 play points. And then especially in Forestcraft, if you're running a combo deck, that's very good. So I am confused. I've seen this in a lot of lists, the Rose Deer with the Thornburst. I am very confused on how this is so good. I can understand, having the 4-drop rush, to swing into something, and then, the Thornburst. But I felt like this was a card that you only rocked inside of Rose Queen. But judging by how this is going and seeing the late game cards now, I can understand. They're running the 3 of Silent Suzuka with the Storm, and then the Evo, the bottom deck of card. And probably what they want to do is the turn before with the Rose Deer, they'll, Rose Deer get that extra card in their hand, and then, they go for turn, they draw that card. And then Silverbolt, excuse me, for at least 7, if not 8. I mean, sometimes maybe you can even get to 10. I've had 10 cards on my hand before, with Runecraft, but that's a different story. So let's go ahead and look at this Evo deck. It looks pretty, like any Forestcraft deck would look. It's the 2 of Ancient Elf with the 2 of Crystalia Lily, and then the 2 of Tia with the 2 of removal. Most of it's just removal, and then the other bounce mechanics, and then so on and so forth. So congratulations to June's Boys for first place with Forestcraft, and I hope you do well at Worlds. All right, and it seems like my answers are finally here. I was wondering this entire weekend where Uma would place in terms of competitiveness. It's definitely a very good deck. It's very strong. But my other question was, what would a topping, Uma deck list look like? And looking at it now, I'd see that this is it. So just looking at it, it seems like it has, well, just by how it's organized, I like how it is. It has every aspect in the game on what you want. You have 1-drops for the early game, the 1-drop spells, or you're searching in the early game. 2-drops to get to that late game, or rush out those followers and trade back, and then those late game cards that really can sum everything up. So looking at Uma, it's definitely a lot to just take in for a second, but when you slow down, you can probably realize what's going on. So they have the 1-drop cards. This one's the Rush with the Storm, and this is the follower that gives something +1/+1. And looking at this list already, it does not have Swing Sky, and I feel like a lot of people are running that card. And don't get me wrong, it is very good because it has Intimidate. But those control decks, like Haven and Rune, and then even Dragoncraft, I'm gonna call Dragoncraft control too because it has Blazing Breath. Those cards are accessible. Like, the only deck that'll probably have a hard time getting rid of Swing Sky is Swordcraft. And if you want to, go against Swordcraft, that's fine. But Swing Sky isn't going to be too much of a big deal because Tokayo Teo is the thing. So, but looking on to the second half of this deck, I can see that they are running, the mid game for the Narita Top Road. I enjoy this card in Rootcraft so much, I've replaced it for Craig because this card is just pretty good. It's a 3-drop that's not going to get removed very easily because it has 4 defense when you do its on race effect, and you just draw 2 cards and then, discard 1. It's pretty good filter because this deck filters enough as it is with the special week with the Trial Initiation, and then, with the limited cards, Econodictus. But they are also running the Daiwa Scarlet and the Vodka combo, which I don't see a lot of people giving this combo enough credit. Or, with the deck list I made, or, the deck list that John had, he didn't have the Daiwa Scarlets, but he did have the Vodkas. But I feel like this combo is really what you need in the deck to give, everything +1/+1, and then, she has Rush. And then with the Daiwa Scarlet having that first spell to cost 1, and then, if you do it all in one turn, you can give this follower and then something else Storm. So you can definitely set up for something nice with those two. The 1 of removal card with the 2 of Rice Shower to get anything out. And then, the 3 main line, the end game cards. We have the 1/7 more centimeters. This card is very good in those late games when you're like, all right, I need something to do, and this is definitely a card. Because, when you get into that late game, people aren't going to have that many cards in their hand. So, them discarding 3 and then you drawing 3 and then you getting rid of everything is still nice. The Oguri Cap to close out games. This card in Dragoncraft itself is, just absolutely ridiculous. And if you don't have the removal card for it and they're swinging 10 and you're at 9, or you're anything below 10, honestly, then you're crying. You're honestly crying. When you see them pitch 2 and you don't have the removal, you just go ahead and shake their hand and say it's good game. But even on top of that, if that wasn't reassurance, if I'm losing the game, I have Narita Bryan to hold back on. She has Bane, Ward, and Aura, and then, you engage her, and then you deal something 5 damage, which, if you know anything, and what I've said on this channel many times, is that if anything has 5 health, then, it does something, a little spicy enough for you to play it. And then, when I play this card on my turn that does deal 5 damage to it, it's gone. So I hope you enjoyed your effect while it happened. So a little quick look at the Evolve deck, lots of carrots, the Merzinski Evo, and the special week with the 3 of Agnes Tachyon. All right, and we're going to be moving on into 3rd place. We have Winghay Swordcraft deck. And just glancing at it already from like a little bit, I can see that it has a little bit of more of a control standpoint, seeing that there's, the Bell Ringers. And then we have 3 of Lathams, which people have lots of opinions on, which they believe that this is the worst 2-drop, and I can understand that being the worst 2-drop. But, don't knock Latham because he is still a 2-drop 3/3, and there's not a 2-drop 3/3 in Sword, and he's probably the best when it comes to, after the, Leonidas play the Resolve token, and if it sticks on the field with, playing, 2 Lathams is nice. But, people usually want to go for, the Novice Trooper because it'll be a 6/6 Storm and can swing it that turn. But if you've already exhausted all that and you're against like a really bad control deck, I can understand why you're running 3 of Lathams. And another more on the control concept is I'm seeing Surefire Bullet and Execution in this build. So I feel like this sword deck is probably, going towards the late game. There's 2 of Alberts, so I can see where they're coming from on building this deck and seeing that they're probably going for the late game. I see that they're rocking 3 of the new Tokayo Teo that, depending on how many followers you have in play, she deals double the amount of damage, and her Evo has that Storm. And I see, when we're talking about that late game, that 1 of Narita Bryan. or I think that's her name. Yeah, Narita Bryan. Still, I think this card is very good. This card scares me personally, just as a Runecraft player. It's just so good. If you get to 8, that's your 8 play. That's your 8 play, because everything that swings at it is going to die. And I don't feel like, you know, if something's swinging bigger than 8, I mean, she's gone, but that's gone too. So that's a pretty good card for Sword to have for the late game. Looking at the Evo deck real quick, we have the 1 of Bellringer, you know, the maid leader with the Floral Fencers, 1 of Albert, and then the Avon Blader with the 1 of Tagaoteo and the 2 Leonidas. So it looks like people sometimes run 2 of Leonidas just in case, you know, your first Leonidas doesn't work out, and you can, I don't know, in a situation where you can play second Leonidas. I personally don't know. I haven't had a match where someone has played 2 Leonidases against me, but usually if that first token goes off, then, you know, you're doing very well from that point onwards. All right, moving forward, we have Fee's Forestcraft deck with 4th place. So looking at this deck, you know, seeing a little difference from first place, we see that there are 3 of Bellringers, and then the 1 of 6-drop neutral card from Uma, and that's Rika Kamishito. So, you know, she's a rush, and then she has strike. If there are no other followers on the field, select the enemy follower on the field and then destroy it and deal 3 damage to its leader. So I feel like this is a pretty good, you know, backup plan in case, you know, they actually do some really good removal. You know, even with you bouncing your cards back to your hand and doing everything that you need, this, that, and the third. And then, you know, if you don't have anything in play on that turn 6, you can go ahead and remove their followers, deal 3 damage, and then in pair with the next turn, you can do Silver Bolt, which is actually, that goes pretty nicely, I'd say so myself. So that's a pretty good backup plan in case you don't have anything. Judging by how it looks in the first place, it seems like there's still, you know, the Forestcraft things, you know, the Nature's Guidance, Harvest Festival, Dahlia Lily, and then the Rose Deer for the extra draw. I like that type of stuff. So congratulations to Fee for 4th place, and, you know, good luck in the next tournament. All right, guys, well, that is the end of the video. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you're safe whatever you do tonight, and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.